When it comes to choosing which assessments to actually use in employee selection, it's a complex issue. And there are a couple of different things that you should consider before making a choice or shape your decision-making process in order to arrive at a choice. The first consideration you should always make is that of predictive validity. Does this assessment predict what we're hoping it will? Is it predictive of job performance? Is it predictive of retention? Is it predictive of adherence to safety behaviors? Is it predictive of learning and decision making? Is it predictive of whatever your outcome is that you are trying to optimize in future hires? Does it do it? If you're looking for people who can work with numerical information, maybe a numerical reasoning test would be useful. If you want people who are good at working with verbal reasoning tests, would be a good option. If you're looking for people who are hardworking and resilient, industrious, and social skills, a behavioral assessment may be a very good option. First and foremost, you outline your requirements, and then you think, okay, what assessments will actually measure these things that we think will drive the business outcomes we want? That's the first and most important consideration. And you don't need to look past it if the answer is no. If there is an assessment that you want to predict performance, if that's the goal, predicting employee performance, and you have an assessment you do not believe will do that, there is no point then thinking of other considerations. It's failed. It's not useful. Now, assume it meets that criteria and you have some assessments which you think will actually help with your overall business goals. The next consideration is that what we call face validity. Candidate experience, stakeholder buy-in, it all hinges on people thinking that it will do the job that it's intended. It may well do. And in fact, if you've made it to this stage, it does by definition. But there is always that perception. And when you have lay people who do not understand psychometric concepts like predictive validity, it can be hard to convince them that it is relevant to the role, especially if it's quite abstract. We have this a lot with certain cognitive assessments, which are actually the best predictors of performance. But in the eyes of candidates and the eyes of hiring managers who know nothing about psychometrics, they think they are useless, which unfortunately is a reality you have to deal with. And so the next consideration is, okay, yes, it predicts performance. Am I going to get pushback from hiring managers, from stakeholders, from candidates? Does it have that face validity? And if the answer is no, then you may need to readdress the assessments and think, okay, how can we make these more palatable to the relevant stakeholders involved? Then the next consideration is, of course, impact from a diversity, inclusion, neurodiversity perspective. Okay, they work, they look like they work. What are the implications? What do we need to change? What do we need to adjust? And if there's no adjustment that can be made, maybe we need to reconsider these assessments. Okay, again, if you are unsure about this sort of thing, it's worth reaching out to the provider of the assessments, to occupational psychologists, anyone with relevant expertise. But if it works, if it is perceived to work, it is fair. The final consideration is, of course, the practical ones. Practical operational considerations. Do we have room in the recruitment process to accept this service? Do we have the staffing necessary to help interpret the results? The cost, can we afford it? Is there cheaper options? Realistically, you don't need me to tell you what those are. You will be in a better position than I will to know what those are, what the organization can accommodate, can afford, how you can incorporate those into the selection process is the practical operational considerations. And once you've finished with those and you've decided, okay, our assessment meets all of those criteria, it's the perfect solution. It's exactly what you should be including. But when choosing assessments, you have to go through each of those steps to ensure that they work and they look like they work and they're fair and actually actionable. And if you do, you will radically improve your selection processes.